our pets do disgusting things, but we don't blame them.
Well, my initial thought is we don't blame them because we love them.
Oh, fuck. So we have to love ourselves?
Yeah! Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, 3.
What?
I said 3. Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, yeah, that's 3 hellos. I don't know what's gotten into me today. Are you in the bassist basement?
I am.
Last night, don't ask me why I was thinking of this. I was just giggling to myself, imagining the word basement spelled B-A-S-S-M-E-N-T.
Basement.
The basement. Get it?
Yeah.
It's not that funny. Before we get into it, I just want to tell you, I was just in the family group chat before we started. Mm-hmm. My sister sent a picture of all the new emojis that Apple is releasing.
Okay.
One of which is a radish.
Okay.
And I commented, why a radish when there still isn't a pickle emoji?
What?
And then that started off this debate about whether the cucumber emoji counts, because as you know, there's a cucumber emoji. Some might...
I didn't. I've never used a cucumber emoji.
Well, there's a cucumber emoji. It's just like half a cucumber with slices of... Anyway...
Oh, so you can't even pretend it's a pickle. Okay.
You can't even pretend it's a pickle. And so we were talking about pickles, and then my brother David, who, by the way, is a regular listener of the podcast, says, this is a good segue to tell y'all about my new mental health podcast, Cucumbers and Rum. And I said, don't think I'm not going to talk about this betrayal on the podcast.
Yes.
Shout out, David. We love you, I guess. But I'm ready when you are.
Okay.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
And welcome back to another episode of Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast where we're disgusted by our own professionalism.
Ooh.
I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
And today we have a topic of my choosing, which I'm very curious to hear how you'll react, you and the listeners.
Oh boy. I'm very excited. I feel like it's been a long time since you've chosen a topic.
I know. Why is that? It's been like the regular amount of time.
I know. Well, I think we missed a week at one point in there.
Yeah, I don't even remember which one I chose last, to be honest. But I will say I've never done so much research for an episode before.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, so get ready.
Okay.
But first, Lauren.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Well, let's say in one word, relaxed.
And why is that?
Because I had my first ever massage.
Yay!
And I just came back from it, and it was pretty much amazing. I was nervous when she was going to do my feet, because my feet are super ticklish, but it wasn't bad.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, they always were. They were way worse when I was a kid. Like, I mean, I would probably like kick my brother in the face if he tried to touch my feet.
Sorry. I was vaping.
Which sounds weird, but I mean, like, he would do that because he knew I was ticklish, so he'd do it to torture me.
Oh, gotcha. That seems like a very brotherly thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So this was your first ever massage in your life. I have a lot of questions because I also have never had a massage. I'm kind of scared of people, especially strangers, touching me. So I'm curious about like how that part went, like your feelings around it.
Yeah, because I was thinking of that on the way over, actually. And I think that if I had done this, like 15 years earlier, I would have felt totally different about it. It just kind of like made me realize that I've come to a point where I didn't work today, so of course I'm not wearing a bra. And I thought of that on the way over, and I was just like, yeah, but you know what? I don't really care that much about people seeing or touching my boobs. I'm like, I just want to leave my underwear on, which, I did.
Obvi.
I was like, that would have made me uncomfortable.
Yeah. I just like squirmed a little bit when you said that.
But the rest, I was just like, I don't care. She's there to be professional. And, I assume most of the time you're laying on your front anyways. Oh no, she sees my back. And it just didn't even, bother me that much. The thought of like, oh, she's going to be touching everywhere. And it's like, yeah, but that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to feel good.
Okay, so you're saying like the older you get, the less of a fuck you give?
Maybe, like I've finally actually done enough work on myself that I don't care as much.
Or maybe you're in so much pain that
yeah,
it's worth it.
I don't care. Just make me feel better.
And I guess it did.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, I'm really impressed by your self-care this week, because didn't you do a face mask too?
Oh, I did.
You posted a review on Peach.
I'd posted one the last time I did one, and someone was like, I would be for it if you review every face mask. And I was like, okay.
Do you care to share on the pod?
Sure, because it was amazing. I'm a big fan now. So I love the Lush Fresh face masks. It's very hard to say, so I had to do it slowly. I made it my goal once to try all of them.
How many are there?
And, I don't know. I would say maybe 10 or so, and they're always
rotating.
So, I don't get to go to Lush very much anymore because it's too expensive for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Relatable.
But I was there yesterday, and I saw they had some new ones that I'd never tried. And I was like, ooh, this one sounds good. It's called Date Night.
Does it have dates in it?
Yes, it was supposed to be, I think they said dates and coconuts.
Ooh.
Like coconut milk or something. So it's supposed to be more soothing and stuff, but it's kind of I usually, if I do these face masks, I feel it feels nice, and, I'm sure it's doing something good for my skin. But this is one of the first ones where I was rinsing it off and I was like, holy crap, I look better.
Damn.
So yes, I'm a big fan of it.
Maybe I should splurge on one of those, because my skin has really been bothering me lately.
I would suggest it, because last night was a night, too, where it's I wasn't feeling great about myself physically and looks or anything. I was I just look kind of hit and messy and bleh. So the fact that it's it was just a little lift, I was ooh, I look good.
It's really the little things that help.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of the very first episode of the podcast I did. I had a segment where I talked about little things you can do for your mental health, and it was basically all self-care things.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I think about that, it makes me laugh, because we've come so far.
Yeah.
I feel now we kind of laugh about that stuff, but it's true.
Yeah, I sometimes get down on that because I feel like it's nothing new. So, I'm not going to react oh my God, really? When people are you just have to do things nice for yourself sometimes. Take a bath.
Just get a face mask from Lush. Here's our 10%
everything will
off
be
code.
Better. And I'm just yeah, I need a little bit more than that, honey. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you should never do something nice for yourself just cause.
Exactly. How's your mental health?
I feel better than I have the last couple weeks, I would say.
Good.
But just almost just nothing. It's I'm not going to say oh, things feel good now, but it's just kind of it's just very, very neutral.
That's not a bad place to be.
No.
That's what we don't talk about enough, is how neutral should be a goal. I mean, we talk about it with eating disorder recovery, how body neutrality is often a goal. But with your mood too, I think people always strive for happiness, but why not neutrality?
Yeah. I mean, when I've talked with past therapists about when I've had just kind of prolonged depression that is just not lifting, then I've said, it's the same thing as normal people, except for my mid-range where I stay so much lower. If, a normal person's mood is 0 to 10, I'd be my normal feels like it's a 2, and sometimes it dips to a 0, and sometimes it gets all the way to a 5. It's fine. That's not a bad thing to strive for. Every days can't be 10.
I don't know a single person who's a 10 every day.
No.
That's not on drugs.
Yep. And if you think that's going to happen, you're going to be disappointed.
Yep.
So where are you at?
I am also okay. It's been a pretty productive week. I changed my car battery, which is something I've been meaning to do for months. I started working on the hotline again. There was one day in particular, though, that was really frustrating that I just want to vent about. So, as I mentioned earlier, my skin has been bothering me. And part of that is due to bulimia. I mean, I have purged a few times since the last time we recorded, full disclosure, but I'm back on my clean streak. But the last time I did it, I burst a lot of blood vessels in my face, and it looks like I'm broken out. Anyway, I had an appointment with a dermatologist that just happened to coincide with this. And I was really excited because I've never been to a dermatologist. I never had access to it, but they take Medicaid, so why not?
Oh, cool.
Anyway, they said the appointment was in Virginia Beach in the text. And so I went all the way to Virginia Beach, which is 30 minutes away from me. And then I get there and they say, oh, it's actually in your town.
Oh.
And then I tried calling them and there was no answer. I tried texting them on their automated text line, no answer. So I ended up just canceling it.
I do not like where this is going. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't been to the dermatologist. That same day, listeners may or may not know, I am on SNAP. I get food stamps. I was due to renew it this month. And so I submitted all the paperwork online, and I had a phone interview with my caseworker while I was in treatment. And then the first comes around and my account is not reloaded. So I went to the actual human services building, and they say that my renewal application wasn't even filed. And so I had to fill out the forms all over again in person. And then I called my caseworker and she didn't pick up, and I had to leave a message. And this was on the same day as the dermatology appointment fiasco. So I was feeling really low on that day. And I wanted to like smoke weed really bad. But instead, I went and had tacos with my friends. And it was lovely.
Well, that's a better option.
Yeah. In general, I think I've gotten a lot better this week at handling those uncomfortable emotions with like healthy coping mechanisms, I guess, which I'm proud of myself for.
If I knew where the little button was, I'd give you applause.
Thank you. Thank you. We both deserve applause this week. But yeah, with that said, even though I'm not like actively purging right now at this moment, I still have a lot of negative feelings towards my body, a lot of self-loathing, some might say disgust, which brings me to my topic.
Oh no.
Which is disgust.
Ooh.
So I will say right off the bat, no, I have not seen Inside Out 2.
That's the first thing I thought. I was like, are we going to go through all the Inside Out emotions?
I know. Well, I know that disgust is an emotion in the second movie. And yes, we do have to cover it at some point. Go back and listen to our original Inside Out episode if you haven't already. But the reason I picked this topic is because this morning when I was looking in the mirror, I just felt this like insane feeling of disgust towards myself. And I was like, why? Like, why do I feel this way? Just, I'll be honest, like, I took like a massive shit.
Okay.
And I was so grossed out. I was like, why am I so disgusted at myself, literally, for being a human?
Yeah, like, there's even a little kid book called Everybody Poops.
I might cut that out. So I have an iceberger. What the fuck? I have an icebreaker question for you.
Okay.
When I say disgust, what immediately comes to mind?
I feel like that would change depending on when you ask it, but based on conversations I've had recently, it is the way that I react to things.
Okay.
Because there's reactions you can't control. Like I'm thinking, for an example, if something upsets you and you feel like you're going to start crying and you don't want to, then that's when I feel just like, ugh, why are you doing this, body? I don't even want you to do that right now.
Like when you say you feel disgust at yourself for your reactions, what does that feel like? What does that look like for you? What thoughts do you have?
I think because when I hear the word disgust, then the first thing I imagine is somebody rolling their eyes and going, ugh. So I think of like what gives me that exact thought. Or like that feeling or wanting to do that.
That's funny because my follow-up icebreaker question was, what disgusts you most about other people? And for me, like, I find that the things that disgust me about other people are the things that disgust me about myself. Like when you go into the bathroom after someone else takes a shit and you're like, oh my God, gross. How dare you stink up my space? But like everyone does that, including myself.
Yeah. And for something really crazy, like as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, I would say the same thing, except I would say it the opposite way. Like the things that I'm disgusted about in myself are the things that disgust me about other people. And we have talked a little before. I think that's why I cannot stand seeing somebody just be, like really clingy, say in a relationship, or like super needy when they're around their friends and like need attention on them all the time. And I feel like that's why, like, if I see that on like a tiny, tiny scale for myself, I immediately like get so disgusted with myself because I'm like, oh, you hate it when people are like super needy. So it's like, I'm just like a fraction needy. And I'm like, oh, you're just like them. Gross.
Yes, same. Oh my God. That's a big one for me. I wrote down a list. So as you know, I have transcribed all my journals from 2009. And so I did a word search in the document for the word disgust.
Oh.
And it came up a bunch of times. Here is a small list of things that disgust me in my journals: my body, my lustfulness, my shortcomings, my naivete, my emotions, my habits, my laziness, my insecurities, my privilege, and just myself, like my core being.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, I did a lot of research about disgust for this episode, and knowing what I know now, I'm starting to question whether disgust is what I really meant to say. So we'll get into that. I don't want to spend too much time on like this scientific stuff, but it's so fascinating. So disgust is a core emotion.
Okay.
So we developed it as a survival strategy. Can you guess why we evolved to feel disgust? I'm putting you on the spot a lot in this episode. Sorry.
I know, but I mean, I'm thinking of just like why we developed these, like early development from most of these things is survival.
Yes.
So yes, that's why I'm trying to think. I'm like, well, if you were super disgusted by something that you ate and it made you sick,
bingo,
it's like that'd stop you from doing that.
Yeah. So ironically enough, a lot of it stems from food and eating.
A lot of these core emotions do.
I know, right?
Again, like that was just surviving when we were developing as humans.
Yeah, so basically we developed disgust to keep us away from things that would, make us sick or kill us, like rotten food. I have a list of common disgust elicitors. So they are body products such as feces, urine, vomit, etc.
Yeah.
Foods, especially if they're spoiled. Animals such as fleas, ticks, lice, snakes, cockroaches, etc.
Yeah.
That might spread disease. Hygiene, so like visible dirt.
I was thinking that too as you were talking. I was like, I bet that's one. But
yeah. And then body envelope violations. So you can probably guess what that means. It's like blood, gore, mutilation.
Oh, okay.
I've never heard that term before, body envelope.
So when you first said it, I was like, no, I do not know what that means. Where's my body envelope?
And then death, obviously, like dead bodies decay.
Yes.
So yeah, it makes sense that we would evolve to be disgusted. With that said, disgust has evolved a lot over the years in that it's no longer a survival thing necessarily. For instance, I found 3 major types of disgust that were commonly referenced. So there's pathogen disgust, which is what we just talked about. It arises from a desire to survive and a fear of death.
Okay.
The second one is sexual disgust.
Yep.
And that one arises from a desire to avoid, quote unquote, biologically costly mates.
Oh.
Yeah. Or purity culture. And then the third type, which is the one I'm most interested in, is moral disgust.
Okay.
So obviously this doesn't have as much to do with survival. Well, I don't know. I'll let you be the judge of that. So I'm getting all these definitions from Wikipedia, by the way.
Okay.
Moral disgust pertains to social transgressions and may include behaviors such as lying, theft, murder, and rape. Unlike the other 2 domains, moral disgust motivates avoidance of social relationships with norm-violating individuals because those relationships threaten group cohesion. So I know that's a lot of word vomit.
Yeah.
Speaking of disgust. But it makes sense that we'd be disgusted by people who do things like that because they threaten the group staying together.
And I can see where, some of that you can make a point that it is kind of survival. I mean, if you take it to a point of just like, say, I'm disgusted by people who would drive drunk.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's going to help my survival. I'm not going to get in a car with them.
Yeah. And, sorry, I got distracted by my cat. Well, so one of the big examples for me personally of moral disgust, like, has to do with politics.
Okay.
So, like, I am disgusted by a lot of right-wing politics. one could argue that it goes beyond politics, but that's neither here nor there. Like, we've talked a lot about your family and their like Trump signs, and
yes,
I bet that makes you feel disgusted.
Definitely. It makes me disgusted every time I see Fox News on at my parents' house.
Exactly. I mean, same. So that's kind of a background of disgust. The main thing that I want to talk about, because this is a mental health podcast, I want to talk about self-disgust, because we both have a lot of that.
Yeah.
First of all, disgust is different from anger. So, like, when I say I'm disgusted with myself, in the past, I've often meant, oh, I'm so angry with myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh God. Sorry, I need to close the. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Where the fuck are you? Oh my God. I am so fucking. I was on a roll too. So I have 3 major sources that I'll link in the show notes. The first one is an article from The Conversation, which is an academic website, and it's called "We All Feel Disgust, but Why Do Some of Us Turn It on Ourselves?" So the question that I had was like, if disgust has an evolutionary purpose, like what evolutionary purpose does being disgusted at ourselves serve?
See, I would already think like, I don't know that it does necessarily, because a lot of these things, it's like, yes, there is an evolutionary reason why, but as, like we became more advanced and developed, we almost like, I don't want to say something as ominous as like used it for evil, but it is. It's like we can start using it for more frivolous things because we have that ability.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's in my closet. That's why I couldn't find him. Holy shit. Ugh.
That's funny.
Bro. He got up. I was like, I'm pretty sure he's not in my room, but why does it sound like he's in my room? He was in my closet on the shelf up high.
That just made me sad because just like yesterday, I think I was just thinking, I was like, I really miss Meatball. And he would do that all the time.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh man, this is going to be so fun to edit. I apologize.
Well, you've been in and out. Then I have a thought. I don't know if it goes along exactly with what you're saying.
Please.
But I was thinking of the anger versus disgust. Because I also, when you gave the list, I jotted down some that I agreed with. And of course, number 1 was I've been disgusted with my body.
Yes.
And I realized when you said that, I was like, wait, but I've been angry with my body too. And I can tell like those are different.
Yes.
Because I would be angry at my body maybe if, like, I used to run cross country in high school and say, because of whatever circumstances, I'm sure it's something, like maybe I'm getting over being sick, or maybe I just, had a week off and lost some muscle tone or something. But, say like I'm running a race and I get to the end and I'm just like, I have to walk. I just can't. Like, usually I can run the whole race. And I'm just like, body, why aren't you doing what you used to do?
That's a great example, because what I found in my research is that the main difference between disgust and anger is that anger is a need to approach, while disgust is a need to withdraw. They're 2 different types of emotions. So like a podcast I listened to that I'll link in the show notes talked about, for instance, Hitler, and how, Hitler makes a lot of people disgusted. He makes a lot of people angry. Like if you see a Nazi, for instance, in the wild, if you're angry, you might want to run up and punch him.
Yeah.
That's the need to approach. Whereas if you're disgusted, you might feel the need to withdraw.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. You might see and just be like, ugh. Let me get away from that.
Exactly. Yep. So in the context of self-disgust, I do feel like when I'm disgusted by my body, for instance, I do feel the need to withdraw from my body. That's when I dissociate. That's when I, use substances.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I'm angry with my body, that's when I tend to do things like binge and purge or like self-harm.
Okay. And I was thinking like when I'm angry, that might be like when I push it too. It's like, no, you can do this. Come on. When I'm angry at my body, I'm usually blaming it for just doing what bodies do. Like I know that I have no control over it. When I'm disgusted by it, then I am blaming it for something I feel like I should be able to control. like all the eating disorder thoughts and being like, oh, I wish I'd looked different. And, like, why can't I just get myself to do this so that I can change? Like, that feels like something like if I just, have some discipline, I could, where when I'm angry, it's something I recognize, like, I can't, make myself, I don't know. If I can't climb up something, I can't like make it happen. Like if my body physically won't do it, but I can be angry.
Yeah. It's so interesting because almost every article I read about this said people with depression are more likely to be self-disgusted. It's like, no shit.
Yeah, really?
And self-disgust apparently appears highest in people with borderline personality disorder and eating disorders. Again, shocker.
Yeah.
Also, self-disgust is different than shame because shame, according to these sources, is related to like social rank, which I thought was really interesting. But I think one of the reasons we've come to like learn self-disgust is because of the way people with like mental illnesses have been treated in the past. Because if we're going back to like the different types of disgust, it would make sense that people who don't understand mental illness would be disgusted because like it's unknown. They might be worried about contagion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. That particular type of disgust is called socio-moral disgust. And it often predicts prejudice and discrimination, which, as we know, is alive and well.
Yes.
And yeah, like I said, especially in the past, I feel like there was a lot of that with mental disorders.
Yeah.
And I know we touched earlier on like projection, like the things that disgust you about yourself are the things that disgust you about other people and vice versa. But like that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before I open the floor to like more personal experiences, another thing I found interesting was one of the reasons we feel self-disgust is we believe we may be toxic to others.
Ooh.
And I wanted to know like what your thoughts were on that. Because I know I can definitely relate, especially when I'm really depressed. I feel like I'm literally contagious and I like darken the lives of everyone I meet and I want to stay away from them like for their own good.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I will say I sometimes feel like I just like give myself a no-win situation there because not only do I feel like that, but more lately I've started then turning it around and just being like, oh my God, what, you think you're so important that because you're in a bad mood, it's going to affect everyone else, or because, you are not doing well, that everyone else is going to pick up on it and you're going to make everyone else's life worse. Like, really, that do you think they care about you that much?
Exactly.
So it's like I have a no-win when that kind of stuff happens.
But that's kind of what I thought of when I asked earlier, like, what is the evolutionary purpose of being disgusted with ourselves? Like, I know it's a very loose connection, but the idea that we need to avoid, toxic things to survive.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking too when you started saying that. I was like, yeah, but I still will do that. If I just know like I'm in a bad place, that's the whole reason for like isolation.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, okay, no one needs to be subjected to this right now.
And not just isolation from others, but like withdrawal from yourself.
Oh, yeah, that's when you turn to things like, substances that are going to help you just kind of like check out of your brain.
Which also kind of makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because when I'm sitting around smoking weed all day, for instance, I'm really disgusted by myself. And it makes me want to like numb myself even more, which makes me even more disgusted with myself.
Or even if I'd say, like, okay, I do not want to be in my head, so I am going to have enough drinks tonight where that will happen. Then, that might happen then, but the next morning, then I just think of it and I'm just like, I'm so disgusted that what I like just thinking of the night before, like, anything I said was stupid and I can't believe I did that and why and never do it again.
Yeah, I actually found a disgust scale, which ranks how disgusted you are in general as a person. And obviously, it made me think about the gross things we've experienced because of our eating disorders. Like, as a bulimic, vomit, doesn't, like, my own vomit doesn't really gross me out as much as like the normal person, I guess.
Yeah.
And you famously talked about your poop experiences on the podcast.
Yep.
So that brings us to the question, do you think we are more or less prone to disgust due to our experiences?
I will say, yeah, like that means there's things where I'm not as disgusted with myself. So yeah, I would guess that I would say, because I was going to start to say like more with others, but I'm like, no, that would be shame.
What do you mean?
I have a lower level of disgust for myself with things like that. And, it probably is just like being confronted with it. And there's a phrase I'm trying to think of, but I'm not finding it. Just being like exposure. That was what I was trying to say, is I think, like that's kind of dulled the self-disgust there. But that's okay when it's just me alone and no one has, like, letting people know, or even, thinking like anyone has any clue of what's going on. That's the shame part that I'm realized. So I was like, when I talk about that stuff with people, then I just feel like, God, I'm just this gross human being, but it is feeling shame, like they're judging me.
Exactly. One area where the self-disgust and the shame overlap for me is with my trauma around sexual assault. And that's another thing I found in this research is that like disgust is often a reaction to trauma, especially sexual trauma. I do feel a lot of disgust with myself when I think about what happened. And of course, like a lot of it is misplaced because it wasn't my fault necessarily, but I still feel like I could have done something different, or like I'm dirty or whatever. And as a result, I just kind of shut down when I think about that. And yeah, I mean, even talking about it now, I feel disgusted. But the only way to feel like compassion towards yourself is to, unfortunately, talk about it or write about it or whatever.
That's interesting that you say that last comment, because actually, as you were talking, I was thinking, and I mean, I won't push, and I haven't in the past, you've very lightly alluded to that kind of stuff. And I was wondering, I was just like, at some point, I feel like we're going to have that conversation a little more in depth.
Well, the reason that I don't want to, I mean, besides the self-disgust, is like a fear. Not so much of judgment, but of retaliation.
Okay.
Which is
where do you think the retaliation would come from?
From the perpetrator.
Do you think they would hear it?
Probably. I mean, they know I have a podcast.
Oh, yeah, so I guess they could. But...
which, like, it's so illogical because, like, I have every right to talk about whatever I want on my own podcast.
Yeah, if something happened to you and you feel a certain way, no one can say, like, that's not true. That's your experience and your feelings.
Yeah. Oh, man, I didn't expect to talk about this, but this is good. Yeah, there is a lot of fear, and the fact that I'm feeling fear makes me feel even more self-disgust, because in my head, I'm like, you're a feminist, like, you're outspoken, you should be able to talk about this. Because there's so many people that I admire who have talked about their experiences, and I'm like, why can't I do that?
But also I was thinking, like, I made my point, but I also take it with a grain of salt because, as you know, I'm very selective of who I let listen to this.
Of course.
So there is that.
Yeah, that is the area that I still remain kind of closed off, which again, the difference between disgust and anger, like withdrawing versus approaching, maybe I just need to get more angry about it.
True.
Because like right now, I just feel a lot of disgust and shame about it, which makes me want to withdraw.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You just brought up a memory.
Please share. I've been talking so much.
I'll be careful on how I talk about this because it is about like the first time I was in treatment and it's about somebody else, what they did.
Okay.
We used to have this group the first place I went, and it was processing trauma, but it would be through, kind of like acting it out or assigning someone to be, either a person or maybe an emotion or anything like that. It was kind of freeform and sort of weird.
Like role playing?
Sometimes, yeah. But there'd be a lot of stuff like that. And there was a girl there that she had a lot of trauma to process, and she entered this experimental thing just kind of like clearly keeping to herself and being sort of like shy about it at first. And the facilitator just, apparently did a really good job and, had her actually like yelling, and she just like grabbed a couch cushion and she was just like, start pushing against this. Now, like, beat this pillow as hard as you can. And, she just had her like going nuts and just scream.
Wow.
But I mean, I could tell like once she had her, I think she knew that that's what she had to do in that moment. Like, I have to take advantage of this and get her to like release it all physically. And it was a really powerful thing to watch.
It sounds like it. Yeah. Like, as I listen to that story, I'm thinking, oh, I could never do that. Like, I could never be that vocal with my anger.
But you could tell like that's what this person felt like too. Like first she's just trying to like, oh, I'm just, trying to work the system or whatever. I'll yell angry words because you asked me to. And it was just like somehow a switch flipped. And it was like, oh my God, she really got something out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories like that before, / seen scenes of that. Like, I've seen it depicted in movies. And I think, again, it seems so inaccessible for me, but it works.
Yeah, I think that was part of the crazy thing, too, is I was just kind of like, this wasn't like a movie script. There can be moments where this can actually happen.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you told that story because as I'm looking down my outline, the only thing that I didn't cover was how to not feel self-disgust. Because, like, I don't know. That's the thing. Most people, of course, will suggest therapy, which we've talked about it before. Therapy is a privilege and not everyone can access it. And also, there's pros and cons of therapy. I'm very fortunate to have a therapist right now that I like. But yeah, you can't just stop feeling disgust towards yourself overnight.
Yeah.
And that seems like a really good way of dealing with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing, though. It's like that's having privilege to be in a place where someone can lead you through something like that.
The other thing that a lot of the sources said is effective at dealing with it is like exposure, like talking about it, role playing, whatever. And that made me feel uncomfortable. Like the disgust that we feel towards our bodies, like dysmorphia, I feel like does stem from disgust in a way. I can't like explain why, but the two seem really linked to me.
I know. I'm trying to think of something to say on that because I agree.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Pico keeps sitting in my lap. He always does this thing where he like paws up at my chest or something like that, but then he keeps getting caught on the wire and he practically strangles himself.
Oh my God. Like, don't do that, Pico.
No, stay away.
I thought it was really interesting. A lot of people are grossed out by like dog poop, for instance, unless it's their dog's poop.
Oh, yeah.
Or like vomit, unless it's your vomit. Like it's so interesting.
Or parents with kids are like that too, I know.
Yeah. Intimacy reduces disgust is one thing I read.
Parents will do shit, like kiss their kids after they've like smeared their food all over their mouth. I'm like, do that with somebody? Gross.
Yeah. Oh my God. Kids are just disgusting.
Dirty.
In general. I'm sorry.
No.
But I think the same thing about dogs. But then again, like I've known dogs that I like that I've like kissed. Why does that feel like such a dirty admission to reveal on the podcast? But in general, I would not run up to a dog and kiss it, just like I wouldn't run up to a child and kiss it. I think in general, they're disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, scooping my cat's litter or picking up my dog's poop, that is just a part of pet ownership.
Man, how could we translate that to our self-disgust? This is just like totally coming to me in the moment. Like, okay. Because like our pets do disgusting things, but we don't blame them.
Well, my initial thought is we don't blame them because we love them.
Oh, fuck. So we have to love ourselves?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I know.
That's my mind blowing my wide open. Are you ready for a palate cleanser?
Yes.
Okay. So I want us to take the disgust scale.
Oh, I was hoping so when you mentioned it. I was like, I hope this is something that I can take like a quiz.
Yes, it is. So I'm pasting it into the chat.
Okay.
You indicate how much you agree with each of the following statements or how true it is about you. Write a number from 0 to 4 to indicate your answer. Do you have a piece of paper handy by any chance?
I do. I was prepared this week.
Okay, so what I'm going to do and what you should do is just like write down each number, and then at the end we're going to add them up to get a score. There's like more complicated directions at the end, but I'm not going to fuck with that in the interest of time. We're just going to add them up.
All right.
Okay, so 0 to 4, 0 being strongly disagree, 4 being strongly agree. 1, I might be willing to try eating monkey meat under some circumstances. I would put 1 somewhat untrue, because if I were like on a desert island with nothing else, I would do it probably.
I put 1 as well, mostly because I don't care to eat meat.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Obviously, the situation would have to be dire.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know. 2, it would bother me to be in a science class and to see a human hand preserved in a jar.
I'm going to say a 2.
I'm going to say 0. That wouldn't really bother me. 3, it bothers me to hear someone clear a throat full of mucus. 4, all the way. I hate that.
3.
Okay.
I feel like there's worse things, but that's, me and my misophonia, that's pretty bad.
I know, I was thinking of you with that one. 4, I never let any part of my body touch the toilet seat in public restrooms.
4, strongly agree.
I would say 1, because if it's really dirty, I won't touch it, but otherwise I will.
It took me a while here with the guy that I am dating to stop laying toilet paper on the seat before I used
it. That's bad.
I know.
But also men are gross.
Yeah.
All right, 5, I would go out of my way to avoid walking through a graveyard.
0. I'd go out of my way to do so.
I love graveyards.
Right.
6, seeing a cockroach in someone else's house doesn't bother me. I hate cockroaches, but if it's someone else's house, probably 1.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I can't say not at all, but sometimes you live places where these things can't be avoided.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, as long as I know they like get rid of it.
7, it would bother me tremendously to touch a dead body.
Ooh.
4, maybe not so much that I would be disgusted by it, but it would just really upset me.
Yeah, I think I'll say 3.
Okay. 8, if I see someone vomit, it makes me sick to my stomach.
4.
2, I cleaned up so much vomit when I worked at Starbucks. I'll just say that. 9, I probably would not go to my favorite restaurant if I found out that the cook had a cold. 4.
2.
10, it would not upset me at all to watch a person with a glass eye take the eye out of the socket. Probably 1.
I feel like I honestly don't know. Just because it's like I can't picture, it's like I don't know, like I mean I would imagine I'm not going to see anything, like guts or grossness at that point. So I'm just like I think I could say 1 too.
Okay. 11, it would bother me to see a rat run across my path in a park. 0, I don't mind rats if they're outside.
That's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, I'm a 0.
12, I would rather eat a piece of fruit than a piece of paper. What kind of question is that? 4.
No shit.
Obviously.
4. Yeah.
13, even if I was hungry, I would not drink a bowl of my favorite soup if it had been stirred by a used but thoroughly washed fly swatter. So wait, used but thoroughly washed.
Used but thoroughly washed. So I'd say...
Listen, I've done grosser things than that when I've binged and purged. So I'll put 3.
You would not?
I would not, but not so strongly that I would never do it.
Oh, okay.
Like, if I was in binging, I might do it.
I would say I'm going to say 1.
You're brave.
You say it's thoroughly washed. I would be a little grossed out, but I would be like, that's just my head working overtime.
I'm switching to a 2. Fuck it.
Okay.
All right. 14. It would bother me to sleep in a nice hotel room if I knew that a man had died of a heart attack in that room the night before.
I'm tempted to be like, well, 4, but that's because of ghosts. But no.
Wait, do you believe in ghosts?
No.
Me neither. Okay. Phew. I'm going to put a 2, kind of neutral.
That was my feeling too.
Yeah, like if it's cleaned.
Yeah.
I mean, odds are we have slept in a hotel room where someone has died.
Exactly. Like as long as he's not still there.
Okay, that's the first half. Do you want to read the second half? How disgusting would you find each of the following experiences?
Okay, this one's similar. 0 is not disgusting at all. 4 is extremely disgusting. You see maggots on a piece of meat in an outdoor garbage pail. 4.
I would say 2. It's outdoors. It's the garbage. What do you expect?
Yeah, but that's just something I feel it in my gut as soon as I see it.
That's fair.
You see a person eating an apple with a knife and fork. I'd laugh, but 0.
Yeah, that's not disgusting. I would just be like, why?
Yeah. While you are walking through a tunnel under a railroad track, you smell urine. 1. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I like it. But
that happens all the time.
Exactly. But I'm just it's not like it's going to surprise me or I'm going to choose a different path.
Now I'm wondering if there's people that like that. Anyway.
Hey, you're not giving yours. I'm just giving mine.
What? Oh, I would say 2. Sorry, I've been writing them down.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize I wasn't saying them.
You take a sip of soda, then realize you drank from the glass an acquaintance of yours has been drinking from.
That has happened to me. I would say in the age of COVID, I'm moderately disgusted.
I feel like acquaintance, still, person that I know and have an idea of at least where they've been. So I'd still say 1. My mom would definitely say 4. Your friend's pet cat dies. No. And you have to pick up the dead body with your bare hands.
Oh my God, that needs a trigger warning.
No. I'd probably say 2, but mostly it makes me want to cry.
Yeah, less disgust, more sadness. I would say 2 as well.
You see someone put ketchup on vanilla ice cream and eat it.
4. 4.
2.
That's the kind of thing I would do to make myself throw up. No, even then I wouldn't do it. That's wrong. You're sick if you do that.
That's one where, again, I'd be like, it's gross, but also I'd just kind of laugh. You're weird.
Ugh. I don't know why that's the grossest thing on there for me so far.
There's different food combinations. I know there's some for sure. I'd say that. That one didn't do it for me. You see a man with his intestines exposed after an accident. 4. You discover that a friend of yours changes underwear only once a week.
4.
I know, 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, 4.
It's really gross. Sometimes I change my underwear twice in a day. I can't. Ugh.
A friend offers you a piece of chocolate shaped like dog dew. Again, that's hilarious. 0.
I would say slightly disgusting. 1.
Fair. You accidentally touched the ashes of a person who's been cremated.
0. Doesn't
I'll
bother me.
You're about to drink a glass of milk when you smell that it's spoiled.
3. Very disgusting.
I'm going to say 2. I was going to say 1, but I don't know. Milk is a particularly bad one. As a part of a sex education class, you are required to inflate a new unlubricated condom using your mouth.
Oh, what? Can't relate. Homeschooled. Did you have to do that?
No.
Were there condoms at all involved?
I was going to say, I don't remember there ever being a condom. I mean, we only had health class with maybe a sex ed, couple of weeks.
I would be embarrassed, but not disgusted.
I would say, it does say it's unlubricated. Because that was 0. The first thing I thought, is I was like, I think I'll say 1. And then the last one, you're walking barefoot on concrete and you step on an earthworm.
Oh.
I know, the first thing I felt was bad.
No, probably 3 for me.
Maybe a 2. Okay.
All right, so now I'm going to use my calculator on my phone to add up my totals. Elevator music. I got a 53.
I got a 52.
No way! Wow. So that means, I guess, we're moderately disgusted.
Okay.
In general. I don't hate it.
No, me neither. I think that's a healthy amount of disgust.
Yeah, listeners, let us know what score you get. I'm very curious. But yeah, that was the disgust episode. I still don't know how I feel about it. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about.
Yeah, but I feel like that's good why we do the related poll episodes now.
Yes. So I guess a follow-up question for listeners could be...
I'd love to do something that's not just about disgust, but compares it to anger, because we did a lot of that.
What does self-disgust look like for you?
And how is it different from anger?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. What does self-disgust look like for you, and how is it different from self-anger?
Love it.
So you have a few weeks to answer that. Next week, we will be back with the results of the family background episode.
Yeah.
So we asked you all how mental health was viewed in your family. and how it affected you.
Tell us all your juicy family stories so we can talk some more.
Yes, I have a surprise for that episode.
Oh, boy.
Until then, we love y'all, and we'll see you next week. Bye!
Bye!
If you like what you heard, tell a friend about the podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where you can find our entire back catalog and links to all our social media. We love hearing from our listeners, so send us a voice message at speakpipe.com/picklesandvodka or DM us at Pickles and Vodka Podcast on Instagram. My personal account is at XtinaJumper, and Lauren is at Lauren3_AFH. We'll see you next week.